presentation items that I will get to. We didn't have any committee reports, so we will not discuss those. And then I'll pass the screen to Mary Dodson so she can give a review and an update on our progress with the governance charter and MOU, and outline or summarize some of the public comments that we have received so far from you, our CoC members. Then I'll give you a quick update on the 2015 point in time count and housing inventory chart. Julian is actually with us, and he will give us a short report on the housing inventory chart progress. And then finally I want to end with talking about some grant opportunities that are out there right now. And lastly, I actually don't have this on the agenda, but I wanted to show you some metrics that I think are important indicators of the work that we do for you as CoC members in an infographic that one of our staff members put together last week. So let's go ahead and get into the roll call, and just so everyone knows, we are recording this and we will put this up on our website. And I know I'm going to say it a lot, but please type in your questions, ask me to unmute you, however you can get my attention so you can participate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the list. It's in alphabetical order by first name. So I'm going to do my best as I go through this list. If I get your name wrong, or the organization you're with or the community you're with wrong, I apologize. Okay, so first of all, joining us we have Ida Martinez, and I'm sorry, the screen just, Ida Martinez, and she's with the South Plains Association of Governments in Lubbock, and she's with the South Plains Homeless Consortium. And Braziz is joining us, and I know I always forget where you're from. Could you type that in, and I will report that out. Anna Medora from SAM Ministries in San Antonio. They do work with the counties outside of Bexar County, so that is why she is joining us. Beth Rawlingson with Advocacy Outreach in Bastrop is joining us, and she's with the Bastrop County Homeless Coalition. And let me go back up to Ann Braziz. She's with Families in Crisis in Central Texas. And I'll try to remember that next time, Ann. Joining us from Tyler, Snowy Tyler, is Christina Folsom. She leads the East Texas Human Needs Network there in Tyler and works with Smith County as a whole. Donna Fisher is joining us from Atascosa County. She's with Family Crisis Center there. Jenny Stafford is joining us from Victoria. She is the Director of Mid-Coast Family Services. Irma Garza is joining us from Hidalgo County. And Irma, I hope the technical issues you had earlier have been resolved. Jason Murphy is joining us from Galveston. He's with the Gulf Coast Center, and they work in Galveston and Brazoria County. Jean East is joining us from East Texas in Lufkin, and she is with the Women's Shelter there. Jesse Elizondo is joining us from Corpus Christi. He leads the Homeless Issues Partnership, and he works at the Salvation Army of Corpus Christi. Joe Adams is joining us from Buckner Place, and I believe that is Joe is in Abilene and working with the West Texas Homeless Network. But I know Buckner works with many counties, so she probably spans several coalitions with her work. Judy Johnson is joining us. She is with Brazoria County, it looks like. Thanks for joining us, Judy. And she works with the Economic Advocacy Committee. I'm guessing on that. You can correct me. Joining us from in the office is Julian Perez. He's our programs monitor. He's still relatively new, but he is off and running and doing a great job for us already. And a lot of you know him from his previous work at Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs as a monitor with that agency. And I'm sorry, Joe Adams is actually with the Beaumont, with the Southeast Texas Coalition, and she works at Buckner. Okay, Kelly Stallings is joining us from New Braunfels. She's the Director of Connections, and she also manages a program that is in Portland for youth. Okay, Craig Fierro is joining us here in the office, and he's helping us with some of the logistics, and he helps us with the notes every month. So thank you so much, Craig. Christy Smith is joining us with Economic Action Committee of the Gulf Coast in Matagorda County. Linda Hamlin is joining us from Midland, and she's with Midland Fair Havens. Lynn Lackey is joining us from the Gulf Coast Center in Galveston. We have a lot of people that are coming on now, so I have a few more to go. Melinda Conway Vaughn is joining us from Corpus Christi. She is with Wesley Center. Mark Bethune is joining us from the Concho Valley Community Action Agency in San Angelo. Mary Gaona is joining us from Bethany House. She's the new director of that agency, and Bethany House is in Laredo. Napoleon Coca is joining us from Hidalgo County. He works with IRMA, and they manage ESG programs there in Hidalgo County, the urban county. Sandra Moore is joining us. She's with the Crisis Center in Matagorda County. And Tracy Spalvado is joining us, and I bet Alina Shady is with him in Longview, and they are with Community Health Corps. And then finally, Yvonne Menendez is joining us from San Benito. She is with the START Center. Thank you all for joining. This is a good turnout. As I said, I'm joined in the office by Julian and Craig, and also joining us is Mary Dodson, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. I'm going to take some time to go through some of the questions and comments that have come in to see if we need to address those before moving on. Okay, it looks like these questions will come up later. Okay, like I said, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that aren't on the agenda. And one of the things I want to talk about, we just recently learned of, and it's very disturbing news out of Texarkana. You may have noticed that we don't have one of the people that normally participates, and that's Jennifer Laurent. She is the lead at the Texarkana Homeless Coalition, and she's the director of Randy Sam's. She texted me about an hour ago and said she would not be joining us. And the reason she's not joining us is because of some awful news that I am sharing with you now. Unfortunately, last night someone succumbed to the weather and passed away in Texarkana, and it's someone who is really close with Jennifer and her clients at Randy Sam's. So they are going through a really tough time, and she's with them trying to help them with that. So I think it's just important to point this out and, you know, take some time to think about this person, this woman, and, you know, every person out there who is exposed to these harsh elements right now, and really any time of the year. it's really awful news, and I hate to hear this, and I think it's just proof that we need more affordable and permanent supportive housing in all of our communities. And you know, if we had that, maybe this wouldn't have happened in Texarkana early this morning, or I'm sorry, yesterday. This is awful news to hear, and I'm sorry to pass it along, but I think it's important, probably the most important thing that we would talk about today. And one more thing on this topic, I'm sure no one will have a problem with this, but on behalf of the Texas Balance of State Continuum of Care and Texas Homeless Network, we're going to send flowers and, you know, do what we can to help the folks at Randy Sam's and anyone who she might have been close to there. And Jennifer is one of those people. So she just wanted to express her thanks to us for allowing her to miss the meeting so she could help her clients, and also anything that we do to memorialize the woman who passed away. So, so I'm sorry to pass that along, but I think that was important to talk about, and I hope that this does not repeat itself. This news isn't repeated tonight, because I know a lot of you are dealing with really, really harsh weather. So I don't know if anyone wants to share anything about that. If they do, please write in or I'll unmute you. I'm going to take a second here. I know that I dealt with this whenever I operated a day center and shelter, and it's just really tough to deal with. All the residents and the clients, they become close, and it's something that I think is just extremely difficult to deal with if you're working there or you're the director like Jennifer. So we'll do what we can to support her. Okay, if there's nothing else to add on that, I will move on to another topic. With all of these items that we'll be discussing today, I will send you links. I'll send you the documents, everything, so you will get this information. The other thing that is not on this agenda that I wanted to point out, and it's something that I hope we can take a vote on next month. That's the we are going to talk about it later, but the MOU between the Texas Homeless Network Board and the Texas Balance of State Continuum of Care Board. I just wanted to report that earlier this week, the Texas Homeless Network Board did vote to approve that MOU. So now the next vote will be in the hands of the Texas Balance of State Continuum of Care Board, which I hope will happen next month. And Mary's going to talk more about that MOU and the feedback that she received on that a little later. Okay, so once again, I want to remind you that next month is one of our full CoC membership meetings. This is something that I talked about last month, and this is something that I discussed as a HUD requirement. It's a meeting in which we want everyone who could possibly be a part of the Texas Balance of State Continuum of Care to attend, and that includes everyone in your communities. We try to advertise our meeting announcements, our meeting invites to as many people as possible already. But for these full CoC membership meetings, we're going to step up that effort, and we want you to help us do that. We could actually get 1,000 people on these webinars, so let's see how close we can come to that. And in a way of helping that, we are going to send out a postcard. It's not going to be exactly this one. It's going to be edited, but it's going to be something like this. And we're going to send it out to all of you and then many other people. We're also going to send it out electronically in an effort to get everyone that should be on this meeting at this meeting. So please help us get the word out about that. And when we finalize that postcard, we will send it out via snail mail and via email, and we would ask that you would push that out to your members. We want to hear from everyone possible on these full CoC membership meetings. And if anyone ask, am I a part of the CoC in your communities? The answer is yes. If they're in your communities, if they're in one of these counties that, I know this is hard to see, but I'll send a better map when we send this, but if they're in one of these counties covered by the Texas Balance of State, whether they work in homeless services or they're advocates, whether they receive HUD funds or they don't, they are CoC members, and we need to hear from them. This is their CoC. So this is one of the meetings that we're really going to emphasize getting those people to, to the webinar in our case. Any questions about that? Okay. There is a new CoC representative that was voted in by one of our local coalitions. The East Texas Human Needs Network recently voted in as their representative, Andrea Wilson, and I'll tell you a little bit about Andrea in a moment. I don't think she's able to join us. But before telling you that, I just want everyone to know that your coalition does not need to select new representatives right now. But when you do select new representatives, please let us know. So representatives of the Texas Balance of State are those people that your local homeless coalition or human needs network or homeless consortium, it's that person that your group, your planning group, chooses to represent that planning group at our CoC meetings. So when you change that person, please update us on that. And also send proof of that change in the form of meeting minutes or meeting agendas. But let me reiterate that you do not have to change that representative right now. We will provide you more info on that change in the future. And even in the future, you will not have to change that representative. You may just have to reconfirm that representative. But when we send information on when to do that, we will also send information on what is a coalition, what makes up a representative. So look for that from us after the governance charter and MOU has been approved, well, hopefully approved next month. So with all that being said, let me get to the person that was voted in as the new representative of the East Texas Human Needs Network. I don't think she's with us. Her name is Andrea Wilson, and right now she is in snowy Tyler. So this is what her, I'm guessing, front yard looks like. I'm a little jealous. She actually wrote me and gave me some information about her and about this process. She writes that at the February East Texas Human Needs Network meeting, Christina Folsom, who is one of our CoC board members, nominated her to take Christina's place on the board as representative. So that is what she's doing. Christina will retain her place as a CoC board member. And the nomination was met with acceptance from all 14 representatives or members in attendance. Andrea is the PATH Home Team Director, and PATH is PATH in Tyler. It's People Attempting to Help. It's a nonprofit. It's not PATH as in DSHS's PATH. She works for PATH, the nonprofit in Tyler. She's the Home Team Director, and she's been that since March of 2014. She supervises the housing programs that PATH operates, and that encompasses 52 properties, and she says soon to be 54. She says prior to joining PATH, she was the Director of Social Services for the Tyler Salvation Army, and she's a former school administrator and an Aggie. She always likes to point that out, and the mother of 3 teenagers, which is probably the reason that she's not able to be on the call right now if she's stuck at home in that snow with them. But I wanted to point out that we have a new representative, and each time we do, it would be great to get some information about them to let all of the other CoC board members know. Okay, there have been a couple of questions that have come in, so I'm going to address those right now. Actually, just one to address right now. Tracy Spolvedo asked a really good question. He said he already serves as the CoC representative for the Northeast Texas Homeless Consortium, and he asked, does he need to be reelected each year? Right now, you don't need to do anything. We are going to send every member more information soon on what needs to happen. So, like I said earlier, we'll help define for you actually what is a coalition, number of meetings that we would expect you to have, or we would hope that you would have, and what it means to be a representative, and how often that representative is voted in by the local planning committee, homeless coalition or consortium, as it is in your case. So we will give you more information on that. And another question has come in from Jenny about when the next CoC full membership meeting is. That is going to happen it's going to happen in March, and it's at our regular time, I believe. Let me make sure of that, actually. I'm going to get out the meeting schedule. And I'll send this out to everyone again. Yes, March 25th from 2 to 4 p.m. is when our next meeting will be, and this will be our full CoC membership meeting. So this will also be sent out with our notes. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, I'll move on to our next CoC participation item, and this one I'll go over really quickly. We had thought by this point in time that we would have already tested the Google Groups tool to use as a listserv for our CoC. We haven't done that yet, but what I am going to do is send that out as a test to the people who have attended this call. So you can test it for us and let us know how it is working, so we can then roll it out to the rest of the CoC members. And just to remind everyone why we're doing this, we are, well, we're doing this because we need a more efficient way to communicate. Right now, all of our emails, all the contact information is in my hands. It's in my contact list. And so if you need to change your email with our CoC for all of the news and updates that we send out, you have to go through me. And as many of you know that's not always the most efficient way of doing things. In fact, Christina Folsom from Tyler emailed me earlier and said that she needed her email address changed, and that it actually should have been changed a long time ago for the CoC news and announcements. So to improve this process, we are going to roll out this Google Groups, and hopefully it works well, so that you can go in and change things like your email address where you want these news and announcements sent. You do not have to wait on me. We're hoping it will also increase communication between the CoC members and staff, and we're also hoping it will be a more responsive way for us to work with you. The staff here will not have to wait on me to send something out. They can send something out that's very timely, like CoC grant funding or something like that, if I'm not in the office. And ultimately, it will be easier for us to maintain. So we will test that soon. I'm sorry we haven't done that yet. But look for that. I would say right after the meeting, but look for that tomorrow. Realistically speaking, that's probably as soon as we can send that out. Any questions about that before I move on? And I do see some of you have some questions about ESG, and please don't think I'm ignoring them. We will get to that. Okay, so next on the agenda we have committee reports, and actually there's nothing to report on other than, well, we continue to have our coordinated access steering committee meetings, and I know that's not what they're called anymore, the CAT meetings. We're still having, we'll ask Sophia to report on that next month, and in fact we're going to set up some of our reports that we'll do every year from some of our staff members, hopefully starting next month, and one of those will be a report on coordinated access and the committees that are involved. Okay. Looks like a few other questions came in. Let me address those before I pass this to Mary to talk about the governance charter and MOU. Oh, okay. It looks like some of you have been having a tough time logging in. I'm sorry about that. I'm hoping that you can at least hear the meeting. But as a reminder to everyone, the meeting will be recorded and put up on our website, and we will also provide you with notes as soon as we can. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next item, and like I said earlier, this is going to be a review of the public input received on the CoC Governance Charter and MOU between our board and the THN board. And I'm going to give it to Mary for that. And I just want to thank, before I hand it to her, I want to thank everyone who has given her input. I think it's been very valuable so far. And we will take more input, so please provide that as she sends out my request for that. So I'm going to give you the screen, Mary.
All right.
Okay, you should have it.
All right. Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you so much to those of you who have responded to a new technique we were using called quick questions, because we realized going through the Memorandum of Understanding and Governance Charter is not the most exciting thing to do, and you're working on lots and lots of other things, so we were hoping that we could break it down into little chunks to send to you with one question that related to it. And the first one we sent, we got 28 responses so far. The second one, we've gotten 23 responses so far, and not many people have answered both, so there's a lot of different people who are responding, and we do really appreciate your input. Even if it's just a yes or no, it helps us to know where you're coming from and get a better feel for what we might expect at our March full membership meeting. So I wanted to just remind you that on our THN website, which is on my screen now, if you go to the Balance of State Continuum of Care tab and then click on CoC Resources, this is the page that will come up. And under Texas Balance of State Planning, we've got the board meeting webinar recording from last month. And just below that is where we have the draft governance charter and the draft MOU with the THN board. And you can review those and send any comments you have on those to me, mary@thn.org. So that's where you can find that. And we really are tracking all of this. Like I said, we've gotten a good response so far, very positive response so far, I'm glad to say. Just wanted to show you quickly the actual attachments I sent with the quick questions. So this is the document. Let me see if I can make this. There we go. That was sent with the quick question number 1. And that question asked about whether or not the person approves of kind of this general overall organizational structure for the CoC board and membership. So you'll see at the top is BOS CoC general membership, and right now that's really any person or group in our geographic area who participates in the work of the CoC. And that is the extent of our eligibility criteria. So congratulations, all of you are part of the BOS CoC if you're in our area. We may have callers from other areas. Next, like from that general membership, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm getting a little, let me get back. Okay. The CoC board is one of the primary groups that we wanted to talk about, and those are people selected by you all, the members, to act on behalf of the CoC. Next, we've got the Representative Planning Group, or RPG is what we're calling it for now, although we realize that's not the fanciest name either, so we might come up with something a little more catchy. But those are the representatives from your local communities, homeless services planning body, whatever that happens to be. As Eric said, it's a consortium or a coalition or whatever it looks like in your local community. We want to make sure that your representatives are having a specific place that they will participate in the work of the CoC, and that's within that representative planning group. And then from that group, committees may be formed, and those could involve members of the RPG and other people who are just going to volunteer to serve on a committee, but those will help get the work done that is required by HUD. And then another group that's really important in this whole structure is the collaborative applicant / continuum of care lead agency, and also the CoC staff. And that's the group that helps the CoC do what it needs to do, kind of the nuts and bolts and the legwork and things like that. And right now that's THN. That's who you're talking to today. And then the last group is the HMIS lead agency, the entity designated by the CoC to administer the HMIS, and that is also currently THN. So that's our org structure in a nutshell that you guys are going to be voting on in March, at the March meeting. All right, the second quick question that I sent out had this attachment. I just pulled the board information, CoC board information from the governance charter and put it in this document. So we're looking at the purpose of the CoC board. Basically, it's the primary decision-making body for the CoC. They provide policy direction and ensure that the CoC fulfills its responsibilities, and they oversee and approve the work of the CoC committees. The composition, we're proposing 11 members, 1 currently or formerly homeless person, 5 representatives who also serve on the RPG, that representatives planning group, 1 representative of a large local homeless coalition, 1 representative of a medium-sized one, and 2 representatives of small-sized ones, and then 1 representative from the Texas Interagency Council for the Homeless, or TICH. There is a code of conduct / conflict of interest piece of this, where we want to make sure that any person serving on the board or acting on behalf of the board will comply with a code of conduct and conflict of interest requirements and recusal processes. Those aren't all fully spelled out yet, but in essence it will be a conflict of interest policy that says if you have a conflict of interest with something the board is going to vote on, you must recuse yourself. And lastly, the selection of members and terms. Let me make this one a little bit bigger, because this is the one that I tried to clarify in the quick question email. Board members are elected by the representative planning group at the full, you know what? That may not even be true. I think it's by all the members at the full membership meeting held in the fall of each year. Board members will serve staggered terms of 2 years, so that every year half of the positions will stand for election. In yellow is the change that we made from the version that's posted on our website. Terms are going to begin on October 1st of each year and end on September 30th of the following year, so that when the new members are elected at the fall membership meeting, their terms will begin very shortly after that. And so thank you all. I got lots of comments saying that's good to align those dates. But we need to go back and look at this. Board members, I think, are in fact elected by the full membership. And so that's one reason we want a lot of people to be able to participate in that March meeting, because there are going to be some votes that are going to decide who is the board and who is the lead agency for the CoC and what are they all going to be responsible for. So that was what was sent in quick question number 2. So again, thank you. On the note of the Memorandum of Understanding, Eric told you earlier that the THN board approved it, and then the CoC board will vote to approve that at the March meeting. And that's just basically outlining the responsibilities of the CoC lead agency, since we do answer to 2 different boards, the THN board and the CoC board. I haven't gotten any comments on that document so far, so if you feel really passionately about giving me some comment on that, you can find it again right here on our website, MOU with the THN board. All right, I think that was everything I wanted to present, and just thank you all again for sending your input.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you all for the input. And like I said earlier, please provide her more input as she asks. I know she'll be asking some more. Okay. Any questions about that? You can type those in. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and move ahead. Maybe you'll have some questions in a little bit. And I don't know if people noticed, but while Mary was talking, I used the chat function to write what you all thought about the RPG as a name, and said if you do not like that, give us your ideas on what that group should be called, and that group is our CoC representatives. So that's each person who has been chosen as the Texas Balance of State CoC representative for your community. So give us your thoughts on that name, and we'll consider that with the CoC members. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to the next item. An update on the 2015 point-in-time count and housing inventory chart. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it to Julian Perez in just a second, but I just want to remind everyone what these things are. The point-in-time count and the housing inventory update are tasks that we are required to do by HUD, but not only that, they are tasks and they are projects that I believe help our local communities and help our CoC to determine the housing and services that we have out there, the needs that we have out there, and eventually that helps us determine where our gaps are. We know that there are many gaps, but if we have this data, that helps us present our information when we're asking funders for support or asking the community for help in a way that is objective. And so the reason we do this is not just because HUD requires it, it's also because it is good for our communities and our overall planning efforts. And that being said, I want to say that this year has gone really well so far on both our point-in-time count and our housing inventory update, better than it's ever gone. And I think that's in large part because it's totally out of my hands now. Well, not totally, but it's I'm not as responsible for it as I used to be. We now have Julian Perez working on it, as well as Lindsay Marsh. She's continuing to work on it and improve this process. So I asked both of them for an update on where we are with these projects, and Julian's actually able to join us, so I'm going to unmute him and let him give us a quick update on the housing inventory chart. Julian, let me unmute you here. Okay, you should be good to go.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. So on February 19th, I sent an email to organizations with that have either permanent supportive housing and or rapid rehousing projects, asking them to please complete the applicable survey. To date, we've received 8 rapid rehousing surveys and 24 permanent supportive housing surveys. So I think we've gotten pretty good responses. Thank you to all who have submitted a survey. And for those that have not yet, I will be following up with a phone call, so please bear with me. If you have any questions or need my assistance throughout this process, I'm available by either cell phone. You're more than welcome to give me a call at any time there, or directly my office phone as well, which is noted in my emails. And I'm glad to provide any assistance that you may need.
All right, thank you very much, Julian. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. Just let me know if you need me to unmute you. Yes, Julian's started contacting all of our rapid rehousing providers and permanent supportive housing providers, and he's so far received a great response from those of you who operate those programs, and so we appreciate that. We need this data by the end of April generally, but you know, with HUD we never know, so we're trying to get this data as soon as possible. And if you did send that information to me, I will definitely pass it on to Julian. Lynn Lackey from Gulf Coast Center just asked that question, so that information will definitely be passed on to Julian. And when he emails you, he'll provide the links for these surveys for you to fill out. But if you wish, you can go directly to our website for those surveys. So you can find a lot of the information right here. And you can view a short webinar on how to complete those surveys. Julian is focusing on the rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing projects. Lindsay's focusing right now on the emergency shelter and transitional projects. This is a huge project. Overall, the housing inventory update. There are, I believe at this point, with Southeast Texas joining us, there are over 230 shelter and housing programs in the Texas balance of state. So it's essential that we break up the responsibility for updating this data between at least two people, and that we get your help on this. So again, thank you for that. And as far as a point in time update, the 2015 point in time survey was conducted by several of our communities late last month, and we have received a lot of the survey data already. A lot of communities have already started receiving their reports. So Lindsay provided me with some of that information to report to you. She is actually working on reports right now, so she's not joining us. She's really trying to get this information to you as fast as possible because we know you need it. So she has reported that so far we've received 5,780 total surveys. Now each one of those surveys represents a person, but it also may represent a head of household. And on the surveys, we ask each respondent how many people are currently with them. Now, she's not been able to go through each survey yet to determine what that number is, but she's gone through a little less than half of them, and so far the rate of people with that head of household is about 1.32 per respondent. So right now it's looking like we have a little over 7,500 total people accounted for with the 2015 point in time survey effort. This is the best that we've ever done with our CoCs, with the Texas Balance of State CoC's point in time effort. And a lot of that credit goes to the staff here, Lindsay, and you and your communities, so thank you very much. She also has 14 reports sent out there, so if you're one of those communities that have received those reports, I hope it is filling your needs for data, and we can get additional data to you as needed and as quickly as possible. So are there any questions about that, about the housing inventory chart or the point in time survey? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the discussion of the grants that are out right now. So I'm going to share this discussion with Mary, but I will talk about the first item, which is the 2015 Supportive Services for Veterans Family Grant that is out right now. Let me pull up a document to help with this discussion. Okay, so recently the VA announced the availability of funds for the SSVF program. That's Supportive Services for Veterans Families. This announcement only pertains to previous grantees. So this is only pertaining to those that are applying for renewal funding. So let me just get that out first. So you are not looking for new funding to be out through SSVF. This is renewal funding only, and these are the agencies that we are working with. And the Texas Balance of State, or agencies that cover counties in the Texas Balance of State. If you're with one of these agencies, you know that it helps your application tremendously if you consult with your CoC, which is THN as your CoC lead. This information has been sent out to all of our members, and it describes the process for soliciting that letter of support from us for your SSVF renewal grant. So we are in the process of receiving responses to this, and we will start sending out the letters of support very soon to the agencies that have requested that and provide us with the information that we requested. Is there anything that you want to add to this, Mary, or is there any question that anyone else has about this?
This is Mary. I just have a note. As Julian and I were looking through this and creating this form, we wanted to make sure that we got across to the renewal applicants that it's not just for their benefit that we're consulting. We really want to know more about what they're doing in their SSVF programs, because they're serving the same populations other homeless services projects are serving in your communities. And so this is a good list for you guys to look at too if you don't know who might be in your community that has SSVF funding. If one of these organizations is near you, you might follow up with them. And so eventually I think we're going to get to the point that HUD would like us to get to, where we're actually very much coordinating what's happening with our CoC program funding, our ESG program funding, and SSVF and VASH and PATH and Runaway and Homeless Youth Act. Those are the ones right now that HUD is primarily wanting us to consult with, and again, look at performance measures, look at what's working in various programs, how much of an impact we're having across all those programs. So it's an exciting time of growth for us to be branching out.
Thank you, Mary. And we had a question come in from Anne with Families in Crisis, and she asked, we thought this started March 1st. Is this still true? This grant, this competition, your applications, your proposals are due March 17th of this year. This is for renewal funding. The surge funding that we reported to the Continuum of Care members later in the year last year, that is different from this. That was for new funding, and we did have a lot of applicants that applied for that to receive new funding, and we have not heard the results of that yet. Hopefully we will soon. So this is just for the renewal funding. Any other questions about this? Okay, let me go back to the agenda. Again, everything that we talk about and go over in these meetings, we will send to you. Okay, I know that many of you were on a long webinar earlier today, so if you were on that one and now you're on this one, thank you so much for your patience. I know that that's not easy. But that long webinar earlier today was presented by TDHCA, and it was on the 2015 Emergency Solution Grant application. I'm sure there are a lot of questions that we'll try to answer. Ultimately, I will say that TDHCA is the entity to ask questions to get the official answer, and they do have a process to do that. So definitely do that. We will help out as much as we can along the way. Mary from our office did attend earlier today, and I've asked her if she could just briefly go over maybe some of the highlights of that meeting and this year's application. So, Mary, would you like me to give you the screen, or are you fine without that?
Yes, if you would give me the screen, that would be great.
Okay, you should receive it now.
All right. Thank you. I got it. All right, I just wanted to go back to our website quickly to show you where we have the ESG materials for the 2015 state ESG applications that we're working with you on right now. Same place, go to our thn.org in the Balance of State CoC tab, CoC Resources, and click on 2015 State ESG Materials. What you're seeing here is titled 2015 Texas BOS CoC State ESG Applicant Consultation. What these questions are asking, however, are contact information for your project and also some questions about what are you proposing to do in your project if you receive this ESG funding. And so this is a listing of all of the questions that are included in the WUFU survey. And I will explain that more in a moment. And then we've also included just the ESG NOFA and application, which you can also find on TDHCA's page, but we wanted to include it here too so you could stay on our page. So the process is that we, as your CoC lead agency, need to complete what's called the Attachment B form. And let me pull that up right quick. And this is a form, it's a TDHCA form as part of their ESG application, and it's a Certificate of Continuum of Care Participation and Coordination. So it's where you all work with us and we read what you submit in the survey, and then we also calculate out how many CoC general meetings you've attended, and did your community participate in a point in time count, and those sorts of things. So we absolutely want to support anybody who's applying for ESG funding, and we'll be glad to fill out this form. But again, what we need from you is the WUFU survey. So two parts. Fill out the WUFU survey and tell us what you're going to be proposing to TDHCA, and send us an Attachment B form with your agency's name filled in, and then we will fill out the rest of it and sign it and get it back to you in time for you to submit to TDHCA. And those applications are due March 26th, I think. So we were asking for you to have your Attachment B and the survey completed by March 13th, and we would get all of them back by March 20th. But we'll be reviewing for the next 3 Fridays. So anything that has come in so far and that comes in between now and this Friday, we will review on Friday. Next week, anything that comes in, we'll review that Friday, and then we'll do it one more time on the Friday. So don't necessarily expect, if you send it one day, that we're going to get it back to you the very next day. We've set up some specific times on Friday so that we make sure to get to it in a timely manner with everything else that we have to do. So hopefully that will be enough time for everyone to be able to get it in. And I think those were the things I wanted to cover on the Attachment B. As Eric said, I did listen to the application webinar this morning. Just a few highlights that we found interesting. You may remember that Sharon Gamble talked about how TDHCA is really working with CoCs to administer state ESG in a different way, where people wouldn't, or agencies wouldn't necessarily apply to TDHCA for the funding, but rather TDHCA would have allocated the funding to the CoC, and or I guess specifically to the CoC lead, and then the CoC lead facilitates a process within the CoC to award that funding. So it's taking sort of the competition and awards process from TDHCA to the CoC level, and they think that's a really great way to help make sure that local decisions and local needs are representative in the awarding of that state funding. So she had some good details on that. She clarified the minimum and maximum grant amounts for single applicants and collaborative applicants. And for those 3 CoCs that unfortunately have less than $125,000, there are 3 of them. But we are very fortunate in the Balanced Estate. We have more than $3 million, $3,090,000 to be exact, that our agencies can apply for. And so hopefully we'll get lots and lots of applications for that funding, and you all can continue the great work that you're doing. Sharon also spent some time talking about indirect cost and de minimis rates. And I will be honest with you, I got really confused in that part of the conversation. She referred us to a new regulation that is replacing some of the OMB circulars, and it's 2 CFR 200. And she said, go read that and work with the finance people in your agencies and to learn more about indirect cost and de minimis rates. The overall point being that we and the federal government, I think, realize the amount of administrative money that we're able to get through these grants really isn't enough to run the program adequately and well. And so I think these are some efforts that the federal government is making to see if there's a way that we could help you guys get more administrative funds. Let's see. There were some Q&As, questions and answers during the webinar, and the TDHCA staff said that those will also be posted on their website. So you might want to stay abreast of those FAQs, because I think they do keep those pretty up to date, and they might really help you with your application. And then finally, Mariana Salazar gave us an overview of the application and walked us through the online application itself. And so, not being an applicant, we were just kind of viewing it from the perspective of a CoC lead agency. Certainly those of you who are applying or considering applying may have picked up some other really helpful information. Their webinar will be posted on their website too if you want to go and check on that. But certainly we encourage you to read the NOFA and the application itself, and like I said, we've put links on our website to those for your convenience. I think that's it.
Mary, we had one question that came in while you were talking. Donna Fisher with Atticos Family Crisis Center asked if you could outline what is the minimum and maximum amounts for a single applicant.
Yes, I remember that. For a single applicant, the minimum grant amount is $125,000. And the maximum for a single applicant is $150,000.
Okay, thank you. And I wasn't on the call, but I remember from last year, and I'm sure that this still holds true, collaborative applicants receive more points than single applicants. Is that still true, Mary?
That is still true, yes.
So if you can work on a collaborative applicant, you are much better off, of course. So we would encourage you to do that.
Well, and on that note, following up on Donna's question as well, I'll just say for collaborative applicants, the dollar amount can be up to $150,000 times the number of partners, up to $600,000. So for example, if you have 2 partners in your collaborative, 150,000 times 2 is 300,000. So your collaborative project could apply for up to $300,000. And then if you have 3 partners, you can apply for up to $450,000. 4 partners can apply for up to $600,000, but that's TDHCA's cap. So if you have more than 4 partners in your collaborative, you're still capped at $600,000.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was actually a question that just came in from Jesse Elizondo. So
I was reading your mind, Jesse.
yeah. And I want to go back to what Mary was talking about earlier. Sharon was talking about how TDHCA is working with the CoCs on possibly passing that responsibility of fund allocation to them and to us as a CoC lead. We are talking to them about that. We are trying to make sure that as much administrative funding as possible is passed on, not only to us, but the subrecipients, or in this case, it would be the subrecipients, I guess. So that's where we are with that. And obviously, this year, this grant cycle, that role is not being played by our CoC lead, THN. We're still going through TDHCA, at least for one more year. Is there anything you want to add about that, Mary?
Yeah, that's a great point to make. We have been talking with TDHCA actually for more than a year. All the CoC lead agencies have been. And Tarrant County, starting with last year's ESG competition, the Tarrant County CoC voted to go ahead and take over the entire administration of state ESG. So their CoC lead facilitated a local competition and is now administering those ESG projects in Tarrant County. So TDHCA is not administering those right now. Houston CoC, Harris and Fort Bend counties, they have decided for this current grant cycle that we're applying for right now that they're going to go kind of halfway and agree to run the local competition for awarding the funds, but then TDHCA will actually be administering the grant in terms of the financials and monitoring and performance measurement, that sort of thing. And then the other 9 CoCs, like the Balance of State CoC, we've decided we're not ready to take either of those steps yet, in large part because TDHCA would only pass along, as it stands right now, only pass along 3.5% administrative monies to the CoC, which, as Eric said, would then have to be split among the CoC lead agency and all the projects. So each project would get less than 3.5%, and we just thought that was not enough to even be fair to try to ask you guys to do. And so for now, you are applying to TDHCA for the state ESG money.
Right. So we're still discussing this with TDHCA. Like I said, we really want to try to ensure that as many administrative funds as possible get passed along, and also that it's as fair as possible, because our CoC, unlike maybe Tarrant County, we're unlike them in the sense that we're spread out so far geographically, and just for our staff to provide the administrative task for as an ESG recipient, it's just going to be, it's a different situation than it would be in Tarrant County. So we want to ensure that we have, our CoC is treated fairly throughout this process. So the thing is, the key thing to take away from today is, though, that your competition is still through TDHCA, and we are talking with TDHCA to make the process as fair as possible by next year, if we are, as a CoC lead, asked to play a part in the allocation of funds. So
we're fighting for you guys.
We definitely are, and for ourselves too.
Yes.
But we are fighting for you guys. So we always will be doing that. I hope everyone knows that. So any questions about ESG? Well, if you are applying for these funds, I wish you the best of luck. I think this is a really good source of funding that can help keep people out of homelessness and rapidly move them out of homelessness. So good luck, and send us your surveys when you're able to, so we can get those attachment Bs to you. Yes, actually, there was a question that came in earlier from Jenny Stafford. Thanks for the reminder, Jenny. I wrote you back, but okay, so what she is asking is if she applies, and she's in Victoria. Jenny Stafford is the director of Mid-Coast Family Services in Victoria, and she's considering applying with a partner in the community as a collaborative applicant this year. This is a partner that has not been involved with our CoC in the past. So she is worried that the attendance of that partner, which would be 0 to our CoC board meetings, would hurt her application. So, Jenny, what I wrote to you earlier is that I'm assuming that your agency would be the lead agency, the collaborative lead. And if so, what we do in that situation, and what we did last year in that situation, is that we use that lead agency's attendance as the record that we reported on attachment B. We thought about last year trying to come up with an average attendance among all collaborative applicants, and in some cases that was unfair to certain communities. So ultimately we decided on using that lead applicant as our attendee of record. So does that answer your question, Jenny? I hope it does.
Eric, that reminded me of another point I forgot to make, but I wanted to make sure to make it. We will need to complete an attachment B form for every lead and every partner, as well as every single applicant. So if you're a single applicant, send us one attachment B form that we'll fill out for you. If you're a collaborative applicant, please send us attachment B forms that have one for you as the lead agency, plus one for each of your partners. So if all of you together are one lead and 3 partners, then we will need to have 4 attachment Bs.
And I'm so glad you pointed that out, Mary. And I will also reiterate, you should look at TDHCA's guidance as your ultimate source of guidance for this. But what Mary says is true, and unfortunately, last year there were 2 agencies that were not considered for funding because they did not submit all of the attachment B forms that they should have for their collaborative applicant. It's such a small thing for an application to be thrown out of the competition for, but it is something that is required by TDHCA. So make sure that you have those forms for each one of the agencies. And you'll need to let us know that you have those collaborative partners for us to know to fill out the forms. Another question came in from Donna Fisher with Atascosa County, and she says, we only recently learned of the CoC and the ESG application and Texas Homeless Network. And she asked, does that mean that we're doomed? And the answer to that is no, of course not. You're not doomed. And I would say you still have a good chance of receiving this funding. And I know it's probably not encouraging for me to tell you this for this year, but oftentimes we find that agencies that apply and they get their feet wet with these grant proposals one year, if they're not successful that year, they have a much better chance of being successful in the years that follow. That all being said, it would be good if you could find a partner. I know your community is smaller than some of these others, but if you could find a collaborative partner, I think that would really help. So, anything else about ESG? Any other questions? Okay. Mary, did you have something else before I move on?
Yeah, just one more comment. I think want to refer to the NOFA to see what kinds of groups could be a potential collaborative partner. So let's say maybe you're in your community, you're the only shelter, but there might be another group that's offering some sort of service that would also be eligible for ESG services, funding. And so I would just encourage you to check it out and not think, oh my goodness, I can only be a single applicant because I don't know anybody else who does anything that ESG would pay for. Make sure you check out the NOFA and see. It might give you some ideas.
Great advice, Mary. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next topic. As with all of our meetings, once we get through the agenda, I'll stay on, Mary will stay on for a few more minutes in case you have questions that you didn't want to ask during the regular meeting time. And you can always contact us via email or phone afterwards. Okay, so the last grant that we wanted to talk about was the HUD Continuum of Care grant. Yes, HUD has started the 2015 HUD Continuum of Care grant process. The application is not out, so if you are a renewal applicant or considering applying for new funding, do not worry about that. It's not out yet. But what we have had to do so far is update our grant inventory worksheet. And I'm going to show you that really fast, but then we'll have to come back to it. Sorry, I have so many things open on my computer. Let's see if I can get to this. Bear with me. All right, well, the grant inventory worksheet is something that HUD requires. There it is. This is something that HUD requires we update every year. And what it is a listing of all of the agencies and grants that HUD believes will be up for renewal funding for that project year in question. This is the list that they have given us. Well, this is the end result of this process. They gave us a list. We identified agencies and grants that were not on the list that needed to be added. We identified some that should not have been on the list. And working with our communities, we slowly updated this grant inventory for HUD's records. And you can see that we have in total now 44 different grants. These are all renewal grants. So, I'm sorry, it's 43 it looks like, because we have a row missing. These are all renewal grants. So these agencies and these programs have been funded before. Their original grant funding was sometime prior to this year. Some of these, like Community Health Corps, actually they were named Sabine Valley Center on this grant inventory worksheet, but that agency was funded way back in the late 90s, and they have continued to receive renewal funding since then. So we have some that are like that. We have others like Odessa Links that was funded, I believe, 5 years ago for the first time. So we have many different types of renewal grantees out there, and many different lengths of practice with their CoC program. But this is the list that we have ended up with for this 2015 competition. 43 grantees for a total of $7.5 million in renewal funding. So we have added to our CoC's total annual renewal demand by about $1 million from last competition, the 2014 competition. So this is a list of grantees, and I want to go over some other information here. There has been some questions about the highlighting on this spreadsheet, and so I'm sorry, I probably should have taken all the highlighting out of this. They don't mean anything for the purposes of this meeting. I work with 3 different HUD offices and 6 different community planning development monitors, people who monitor programs throughout the state, and this shading was done by them to identify the groups that they work with. So it means nothing for the purposes of this meeting. Okay. So again, it's 7.5 million, 43 different renewal grants, and you can see that there are several different types of grants: transitional housing, permanent housing, supportive service only, and HMIS. And I have some guidance here from HUD I want to quickly go over. Did you have something before I move on, Mary, to the HUD guidance?
Yes, I was just going to say that what annual renewal demand means is the dollar amount that it would require to only refund or fund again all of our renewal projects. And so that's where we're up to 7.5 million. We have no idea of knowing if HUD will have any new funding to make available. In the past 2 competitions, the new funding was only limited to funding that basically another project would give up. So it wasn't any additional money. It was just kind of using the money the same money in a different way. So we're hopeful that maybe this year there will be more money in HUD's budget so that new projects could apply.
Yeah, and actually last year there was a small amount of money that would have been used for permanent supportive housing bonus projects. We're hoping that money is available, at least that money is available this coming fiscal year. But I will say that particular piece of money it's really tough to get. That's a highly competitive process. There were only 25 of those grants awarded in the last competition across the entire nation. So hopefully HUD will make more money available. In theory, our pro rata need, so the amount of money that is allotted to our continuum of care, is over 33 million. That is if all of the funding that HUD feels should be warranted or should be allotted to our counties and cities across the nation were available. Obviously, that funding amount is not available right now, but we're hoping that they do make some new funding available this competition. Okay, now I wanted you all to know that at this point you've done what you need to do for us. You have sent your information back in time. We have sent our information to HUD in time. I'm currently receiving emails from all of the HUD CPD reps, the HUD Community Planning and Development representatives, who are your program monitors, about the details of these grants. And I think, as of this morning, we have a finalized grant inventory worksheet. And once that is determined by our primary rep in Fort Worth, that grant inventory worksheet will be sent to Washington and reviewed by headquarters there. And hopefully there will be no major changes made or any. And they will finalize the GIW and get it back to us by March 16th. So what this means for us and what it means for you, it's 2 things. For us, what we have to do is start preparing the 2015 HUD Continuum of Care grant competition guidance and documentation for renewal grantees, at least, and then wait to find out from HUD on whether or not there will be new funding available so we can create the guidance for potential new projects. Number two, what this means for you is that the grant will be released, the 2015 HUD Continuum of Care grant application will be released sometime after March 16th. Now, this process is never really fast with HUD, so I'm not assuming that it's going to be March 17th when we receive notice from HUD that the grant is open. But it is possible given this timeline that they've provided for us. So I would just ask that you be prepared if you are a renewal grantee or if you're in a community that works with a renewal grantee. Most likely, the grant will not be released until late March, early April, or later than that. We don't know much right now. We've been talking to consultants who work very closely with HUD, and they don't even know much. So I wish I could tell you more, but this is what we know. This timeline is what we know. We know that the grant will be released sometime after March 16th. And we'll be ready. We'll provide you what you need to submit an application, a quality application, and provide that technical assistance to you along the way. But yes, that's all we know right now. As we know more, we'll certainly let you know. Are there any questions about that? I'm sure that there probably are. Okay, well, like I said before, I'll stay on a little bit later after this meeting in case you have a question about this or anything else. And as always, we're available to talk to you via email or phone about this and other issues after this call. Okay, we're almost at the end of the agenda here. Let's see. Actually, we are at the end of the agenda, but there is one other thing that I wanted to present to you, and I will send this out. We visited with our THM board earlier this week, and we provided them the report we always provide them, which is very lengthy, very wordy, and while I think it is impressive, I don't know that it gets the point across that I wanted to make, and that point is the Texas Balance of State staff here at Texas Homeless Network has done a tremendous job over the past year. We're doing so much more for our members than we have in our previous years, and I wanted to make sure that our board understood that and saw just what we're doing and recognize the importance of what we're doing for our members. And of course, I want them to help us do even more and give us the support to do more. So I asked one of our staff members here, actually two, Jesus de Leon Serratos and Stephanie Valderrama, to work on an infographic that showed what we're doing and what we did in the past year. Now, I realize some of this information is old, but I think it's still good to go over, and this is information that I want to pass to you more often. Most of these are 2013-14 program accomplishments, but I'm not going to read through every stat, but you can see that we have grown tremendously. There's 322 HMIS users, 245 programs in the Texas Balance of State. You can see our point-in-time numbers here. We've already surpassed that for this current year. That was the point in time for 2014. Coordinated access is rolling out to several of our communities. In 2 years, let me use the highlighter. In 2 years, we have increased our pro rata need our annual renewal demand, like Mary explained earlier, by $2 million. We helped applicants apply for $20 million. 19 was awarded in 2013-14. We've provided 125 hours of technical assistance. This is an 133% increase from last year. So we are far outpacing last year's output as far as technical assistance. We're also doing that with training. We've nearly trained as many people so far this year through 5 months as we did all of last year. I think that information is below. This is something I'm going to send to you all and provide for you. This is data that we're going to provide for you as often as possible, because ultimately we report to you. And also I'm really proud of what our team is doing here, and so I'm going to brag on them sometimes. So you should be getting more and more of this, and as a way of reporting to you as our CoC members and as your CoC lead, and also as a way of bragging on the team here. So I just wanted to show you this and make sure to send that to you along with all of our meeting notes and items that we presented today. So with that, let me erase all these highlights. With that, I'll say thank you for joining us, and I'll open it up for any questions. And if you need to leave, go ahead and leave the webinar, and have a great rest of your day. Stay warm, stay safe, and again, thank you for attending.